And now another misunderstood piece, the Great Sphinx. So the Great Sphinx is basically a giant, colossal statue, and it's not actually made out of brick. You see it very clearly here. It's carved out of a stone outcropping, basically a big piece of limestone that they found in the area that they built the pyramids. And as we see it today, we see a lot of restoration. I'll address that in a minute. Now, this presumably represents a pharaoh, possibly Khafre, because it's directly in front of his pyramid. And what we have is a lion's body with a man's head. In other words, the courage, the bravado of a lion with the rationality and thought processes of a man. And this is often associated with the sun god. Now, the Sphinx is a very enigmatic figure. There's lots of conspiracy theories about it and such. I'm sure they're wonderful. I've read a few of them. But basically, the problem with the Sphinx, as we see it today, because it would have been much more complete and much more built out, is it has existed for about 4,000 years in what can best be described as the world's largest sandblaster, just blasting away at this limestone. And as we've talked about in the past, limestone is a very soft stone. So, over the years, going back to the New Kingdom, they've been adding blocks to it to try and preserve this Sphinx. And actually, the back of the head is now being destroyed by sand, and we see more blocks being added in modern times there. So this is extremely common. We also notice the nose is missing. I'd like to blame that on the French, but it wasn't Napoleon. In fact, it was a Turk in probably the 12th or 13th century who took issue with the fact that the local people seemed to be worshiping this figure and thought that that wasn't appropriate for pagan worship in what was at that time a Muslim country, so used it for target practice for his cannons. Very enigmatic form, very difficult form to deal with. One of you will ultimately write a research paper on it, more than likely. And what you need to be careful of is there's a lot of theories about water, whether or not water wore down this limestone. And at first glance, it looks like it. But you have to ask yourself, A, what water? And B, wouldn't sandblasting it, sand blowing against it for millennia, do exactly the same thing?